We all go through it, the moments of feeling unmotivated, sluggish, slow. I recently got out of one of these myself, and I thought I'd share the things that helped me spruce up my work days and actually got me excited to work again. Today is going to be a fun one because we are talking about a topic that I personally love watching, and that is productivity, particularly the lack thereof and how to get out of it. Let's get into it. So let me preface by saying, I know some of these things may sound trite, but really applying them to my life made all the difference, so hear me out. I recently started what's called a wind down routine, where I get a calendar notification an hour before my workday ends. It's basically like a little digital ping to let me know, hey, you got an hour of your workday left. Are my 3 most important things checked off? MIT, most important tasks, are the 3 things that are the most aligned with my long-term goals. They are usually a piece of a bigger project that we're currently working on. It could be a big chunk of work that may not be easy to get started or complete. If I get those 3 things done, everything after that is just a cherry on top. So that last hour, I work on getting those 3 things done, if not already. Then I plan the following day's most important tasks on my bullet journal. I used to think it's very overwhelming or extra to plan the next day, the day before, but this step only takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and it removes friction from my morning the following day so that I can just jump straight into it and not have anything get in the way. This one is perhaps the most game-changing one. If you don't already know, time blocking is a productivity technique where a period of time is blocked out in a calendar for each specific task or to-do. Fun fact, Benjamin Franklin was an early adapter to this method. I feel like I'm giving a tutorial or something. So I like to use Google Calendar because I like that it syncs across all my devices and I can quickly edit or drag events that I want to change. I already have some things on my calendar that are just blocked off. They're set as a repeating event on my calendar, and they're usually just my morning routine, my time to work out, time to create videos or edit and stuff like that. Once it's in my calendar, I feel accountable in a way. Ideally, no other work can interfere with this block of time. It's like my subconscious way of committing myself to something. So usually when I set a goal, I try to schedule a block of time on my calendar, and it just makes me more likely to actually follow through. And of course, life and our line of work is always so unpredictable. You know, meetings pop up, shoots get rescheduled, and all that stuff. So I like that this is a digital calendar, so I can always, move things up and move things around just to fit whatever things come up. This is just an ideal schedule I would like to follow, but things get switched up all the time, and that's just life. It would drive me nuts, by the way, if I did this on a physical notebook the way Benjamin Franklin did. Crossing out ink is like nails on a chalkboard. I cannot fathom the sin. And when I used to have a 9 to 5, I would put that in here too. I think my old job, the hours were like 9:30 to like 6:30. So I would schedule a workout in the morning, and as well as a chunk of time to work on my blog, sometimes in the morning and sometimes right after work. So like around 7 to 8. And then we have dinner from like 8 to 10. So this can work for whatever schedule you have, whether you're a student or a freelancer or you have a 9 to 5. I think it's just a great way to be intentional with where you put your time. You may think, Patty, isn't it a little OCD of you to plan out every minute of your day? Yes and no. Allow me to share a quote by Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, that really motivated me to do this. Sometimes people ask why I bother with such a detailed level of planning. My answer is simple. It generates a massive amount of productivity. A 40-hour time-blocked work week, I estimate, produces the same amount of output as a 60-plus hour work week pursued without structure. Seeing visually where my day is going not only lets me know where I'm spending my time, but how I'm spending it, and whether I am spending it intentionally. At the very least, it gives me an awareness on how long something takes me, and it helps me plan my day out more effectively and more realistically. I'm one of those people that tends to bite off more than I can chew. I used to write to-do lists that are just so absurdly long that there's no way I could get them all done in one day, and by the end of the day, I would just feel feel defeated and as if I've only scratched the surface. It also creates this sense of artificial urgency for me to get something done in the allotted amount of time, which in result helps me get more work done. Also, I don't know what it is, but on days where I get up early and on time, I tend to operate as if time is limitless. I always think I have more time than I actually do, so I would just meander around and drag out certain tasks and more subject to distraction. I tend to do this whenever I show up on time on something, where being 5 minutes late is my version of on time, and being on time means I'm early and I'm afraid of the boredom to come. So subconsciously, I'm always late. Let me know if you have this problem. It's a habit I'm working on. Anyways, I digress. So time blocking my day and knowing what I have to be doing at every hour may seem stressful or restrictive in some way, but I reckon it gives me more freedom because I'm just focused on one task at a time. I can trust my to-do items will all get done so long as I follow this digital schedule instead of constantly having deadlines queued up in my mind and taking up mental space. Sometimes I get in a slump when I've just grown too comfortable with my routines. I get unstimulated. So changing little things up, however small, really helps. I recently added a 10-minute walk to my morning routine and it added so much to my days. I feel inspired and awake, so peaceful. There's a study in 2014 produced in Stanford that shows the positive effect walking has on creative problem solving. In an experiment, adults completed the Guilford's alternate uses test, which is testing how well one can come up with creative solutions to a problem. Subjects were tested while being seated and then while walking. They had variance on walking on a treadmill, walking outside, etc. Nevertheless, walking increased 81% of participants' creativity in the GAU. Moreover, when seated after walking, subjects experienced a residual creativity boost. I think the combination of changing things up in a small way and adding in a short walk provided a boost to my creativity and productivity. That same study from Stanford showed that one can reap the benefits from a walk as short as just 5 minutes. Also, it's just good for the soul. I've actually been using this technique for a while and it's great. It's called the Pomodoro Technique. You've probably heard of it, but if you haven't, it's a time management method where you work completely undistracted for a certain amount of time, usually 25 minutes, and then you get a small break in, usually 5 minutes, before you start that routine over again. The idea is you're kind of boxing yourself into doable chunks of time for focused work, and then you let yourself roam free for a little bit. I learned in my meditation app once, training the mind is kind of like training a horse. The most efficient way of training a horse to not run around crazy all the time isn't by fencing it in a small area till the end of time. You kind of let it run loose for a little bit and over time gradually make that area smaller and smaller. This sounds really cruel. This is similar to breaking down a big goal into smaller, doable steps to make it less overwhelming. For example, I put write script or edit video on my to-do list, but because it's such a big task that takes hours to finish, the task may seem so overwhelming that I procrastinate on getting started. But if I tell myself I only need to work for 25 minutes, I'm much more likely to get started. I honestly think the hardest part of anything is just the beginning and showing up and getting started. And once I start working, I kind of build momentum and usually I want to keep on going. So I like to use this app called Toggle. It's a time tracking app I have on my desktop. I love it because it not only works as a timer, but I can track what tasks I'm doing. So I write the project I'm working on and then I start my timer. So I usually keep going until I reach that 25-minute mark, and within that 25 minutes, if I feel the urge to do something else or if a thought pops up on my mind that I want to do later, I write it down on what I call a distraction list. It's nothing fancy, it's just a piece of paper or a post-it note where I write down anything that is distracting that pops in my mind within that 25-minute chunk of time. The act of writing down those distractions offload them from my brain so that I can free up mental space to return to my task. It's like a mental trickery, if you will, of tricking my mind into thinking I did something about that distraction, and now I can fully get back to what I was doing. I pretty much treat that 25-minute interval as a sacred time. My rule is no task switching allowed. If I do, sometimes I force myself to stop my timer, which makes me lose my streak, and I force myself to start that 25 minutes all over again. So it's been about 30 minutes, and what I like to do now is I set a timer for 5 minutes. I take this 5 minutes to get to whatever I was distracted with, and I basically take this time to lean into the distraction. Ideally, I use this time to physically get up off the desk and stretch or get more water, use the restroom, or sometimes if there's an urgent email that was sent within that 25 minutes, I like to just get to responding on that. That's also something that's been really helpful about the distraction list, is when someone texts me, it's so hard for me to not respond right away. I just know once I respond to one text, I'll get to another. So sometimes when I want to text a person back, I even write that down, so I know that I'm gonna get to them in less than 25 minutes. This last one is not sexy, it's not glamorous, and it's overall not that exciting, and it is sleep. I used to pride myself on losing sleep just to finish that paper back in school or to get those extra hours of work done. I used to think being so busy to the point where I'm sleep deprived makes me more productive. Maybe I'm just getting older, but I find the opposite is true. I now give myself 2 days a week where I let myself sleep until my body naturally wakes up. And every time I do that, I overall just feel happier, brighter, and more productive the next day. I know with everyone's busy schedules, it's not possible to sleep until the sun wakes you up every day, but I definitely recommend squeezing in 1 to 2 days, perhaps on the weekends. Trust me, it makes all the difference. I guarantee, not only on your work, but on your whole outlook on life. On the days where I get a sufficient amount of sleep, I find myself more proactive to problems I would normally shy away from, and I'm usually just annoyingly extra grateful with life. I'd be one of those people that are just way too happy that you're wondering if they're on something, and everyone is different. For me, 8.5 to 9 hours is my full night's rest. I think Elon Musk says he only needs 6 hours to feel fully awake. I am seriously envious of people like that. So that is it. Let me know which one of these you are already doing or you want to try, and let me know in the comments how it worked for you. And I want to put the question off to you, what are some of your productivity tips that helped you get more work done? I'd love to know. I love this topic. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.